It's Wednesday, March 18, 2020. Digital Trends Live is about to start. Here are some of the topics we're covering on today's episode of the show. Apple was rumored to have had an event scheduled for the end of March, and now we're starting to see what some of those product announcements were going to be. We'll give you the details on the updated MacBook. Plus, we've got some great guests joining the show, including Charlie Randall, the CEO of Macintosh Labs, to talk about the rising trend and resurgence in vinyl and quality home theater systems. And with over 9 million social media subscribers, you've probably heard of Dr. Mike. He's one of the most influential medical educators in the digital era, and he'll be joining us to talk about the coronavirus. And speaking of the coronavirus, a lot of creators and companies are turning to live streaming media. From Stream Elements, we'll be joined by their CEO and co-founder, Daron Nir, to discuss the growth of this medium and provide some tips and tricks to get started. All of this and more on today's episode of Digital Trends Live. Yes, hello everyone. This is Digital Trends Live. Thank you for joining us. We broadcast live here every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you trending tech headlines, news, interviews, discussions, and so much more. All while broadcasting live across a number of different platforms. We're on Periscope, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Dailymotion, Apple News, 2 different mobile apps, a smart television app, and at digitaltrends.com/live. So wherever you're finding us, you can engage in the conversations that we get to have. We're here every day, so share the show, hit that subscribe button, and let's get it started here, bringing you up to date with trending tech news. And of course, we have to go to the coronavirus just like we do every day, because every hour something is changing. So to bring you up to date now on a couple of things with the tech and entertainment angle towards that side, we do have more news about movies getting delayed. It is announced from Marvel that Black Widow is going to be delayed indefinitely. They're not even giving a date for when that's going to be coming back, and that's in large part because, well, theaters are closing down. And this is news coming out yesterday. Regal's closing down, AMC's closing down, and I would expect most others as they try to mitigate any of the issues that are coming with the coronavirus and gathering in large groups. We know this by now. This is a trend across the United States, really across the world. So all these movies are getting pushed back. But with that, we are seeing some other forms of entertainment kind of crop up, and this is with a lot of people going to live streams. And there's a few different examples. Yesterday we were talking about some different ones from some singers. You had Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman dancing all crazy. That was one that came up. You have people like Busy Phillips who are out there actually doing different things, doing cameos and then donating money to charity. We also had this yesterday. Bono is now in the action. Yes, because St. Patrick's Day was canceled, he actually went onto a live stream. I believe it was on the Facebook page of U2. Yeah, that's what it was. And he put up his own song, a new version of the song, or a new song that he wanted to put up called Let Your Love Be Known. So anyway, it's him singing to the people who are taking care of everybody in Italy, is what he was a lot of talking about with that. But that's something U2. Then you have another one with Ben Platt, who is, he's from The Politician and Dear Evan Hansen. So Ben Platt is actually going to be having a dance party, and this is something that you saw a lot going on in China, in case you didn't know, during their extreme quarantine, and they're starting to come out of some of that. But they had a lot of things like this, where DJs and performers would live stream, and then everybody could join in with them that way through digital media. It's an interesting use case for it. I mean, it's certainly not something original. We're live streaming right now to you, but this is a new form of it, and it's proliferating pretty amazingly with all these different performers doing it. So I'd expect more things like that. They also have apps that are coming out, and talking about entertainment changing here as we're dealing with coronavirus. You have things like Netflix Party, which is cropped up. So Netflix Party is something you can do at home, to where you can actually host a party and watch a Netflix show. It's a Chrome extension that you can put on, and it kind of turns into an AOL chat room kind of thing, but it's an interesting way to still get together with people despite all this time and stream some online media. And that is what so many of us are doing, since we can't go out and see any entertainment. There's no sports anymore. There's no concerts. This is the way to get our entertainment and still be able to interact with people. It's kind of getting that social aspect back into social media. And that's just a couple of examples. We've got lots more at digitaltrends.com that you can take a look at and kind of go through and find some different ways, as we're all working from home now, finding ways to entertain ourselves. Continuing on with that, let's talk about some other developments in tech associated with the coronavirus. And we're seeing this happen here, although it's been going on for other places for quite a while now. And I'm talking about a mobile tracker app. So in South Korea, in case you didn't know this, they've been dealing with it for quite a lot longer than we have. They've gone through some pretty tough times with it. And they had a mobile tracker. This is something that they use. It's called Corona 100M. So it's an app that you download, and it utilizes government data to let you know when new cases pop up. So you download this app. Here's how it works. Download the app. You get a notification if you're within 100 meters of someone who has just been tested or diagnosed or has it. It's it's kind of in that gray area of how do we feel about our data being utilized versus public safety. And that's a debate that we're going to be having throughout this for a long time as things happen very quickly. We'll have to be probably looking back at this from years from now to really understand everything that's going on and what the ramifications are. But that's something that they're using. So it's a mobile tracker to let you know if you're within 100 meters of somebody who has contracted coronavirus. Now, that's not where this stops. That's certainly something that people here in the United States are looking for, in North America and other places where it's starting to affect them. So the U.S. government has been talking to tech companies about how they can use phone location data to also augment these notifications and help people out in association with coronavirus and help understand where it's happening. There's companies that are working with them to some extent. Now, Google said that they're going to limit what kind of privacy data, and this is where, again, things are happening so quickly, and certainly health is of the utmost importance and safety of people, but we're also seeing some data things that are happening right now. So where this goes, we don't know. I would expect that as much of everything else that's gone on, we're going to follow suit with some things maybe that are happening overseas. If they've been successful, that maybe we'll see more of these apps crop up. And there are some other ones that are being developed right now. You'll start to see news about them. The one thing I will say is make sure that you're getting your news from a verified source. That is definitely an issue right now. Misinformation has been spreading rampantly, just like it always does, whether it's people with ill intentions or just people sharing things before they even verify where that came from. That's a huge issue. So make sure that you're getting your information from a verified source. And speaking of the tech companies that are involved, that's something that they are all banding together. They actually issued a statement. So some of the big ones, and I'm talking about Google, Facebook, and Microsoft, who have joined forces to actually make an announcement about the fact that they want to combat misinformation. And they made this statement that was actually, it was a joint statement. So it said, we are working closely together on COVID-19 response efforts. We're helping millions of people stay connected while also elevating authoritative content on our platforms and sharing critical updates in coordination with government healthcare agencies around the world. We invite other companies to join us as we work to keep our communities healthy and safe. So it's just that, combating false information. And we know that can certainly be an issue online, right? And they also signed this. So these different companies signed it, and then several other ones joined in with it as well. So I believe, Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, Microsoft, Reddit, Twitter, and YouTube were all part of it, and then encouraging other companies to also join on to help combat this spread of misinformation, which is such an issue online. I just encourage everybody, before you share something, make sure it's coming from a valid source, and not to, because who knows where it's going to go once you share something, and if it's not right, this could be an issue that could really affect a lot of people. It's just not a time to mess around with that. Just make sure it's a valid source, and that's what they're doing too. And we're working on that to make sure that everything's valid and verified. So going from there, let's do this. Let's continue on to some other news. So we do have things besides the coronavirus, although it does kind of relate to it. So there have been rumors for quite a while that Apple was going to be having an event here towards the end of March. It kind of falls in line with their usual product announcements. We didn't know exactly what it would be, but we're starting to find out a little bit more about what it could have been, and that's because they're issuing some press releases about some new products. So let me give you a couple of products here. We're going to be joined by Luke Larson, our computing editor here later on in the show, to go into these in more detail. But to let you know what's going on, there's an updated MacBook Air that has come out, and this is something that's been rumored for a while. So this is the 2020 refresh. A few things that are with it. They do have the Scissor Switch keyboard, which is officially called Magic Keyboard. So they've got that. So they're getting rid of that keyboard issue that a lot of people really didn't like. That's replacing that butterfly mechanism that they had before. So they've got that. It's a 1.2 gigahertz quad core. It's Core i7, so it sounds like it's a pretty nice computer. It's got 256 gigs of onboard storage, and it uses the Intel Iris Plus GPU. So a lot of details on that. What the other things that I think are kind of interesting with it, it's got Touch ID for biometric authentication, and a set of 3 microphones, and then stereo speakers. So the 3 microphones I find pretty interesting, definitely in this case where a lot of us are working from home and probably doing a lot from our laptops. 3 microphones is we'll have to see if that's how that works out and what people can do with that. But that's an interesting add-on. Again, Luke Larson will be joining us to discuss that more in depth, and we can ask him questions when he does join us here in about 20 minutes or so. It also, of course, comes with a 1-year access to Apple TV Plus. So we expect that with a lot of Apple products right now. So that's the updated MacBook Air. The big one, though, that was announced was the Apple iPad Pro. Now, another thing that we've been anticipating, thinking this could be coming out, but now it finally did, and some interesting use cases with it because it seems to be becoming more and more like a laptop. And they've even got a keyboard now, the Magic Keyboard that will attach to it to where you can use that. It's got, so you actually have an on-screen cursor that'll go with it. You can operate it by your finger or on the touch screen. It's got a dock. It's kind of I'll tell you what it is here, actually going through, talking about some of the different connection issues, because they do have some different variants of that. But it uses the Apple A12Z Bionic chip. It's got a natural engine Wi-Fi, 4G LTE option, and a battery that lasts up to 10 hours. 10-hour battery life, that's pretty key. That's a nice addition there. You've also got so this is the 2021. It comes from $800 for the Wi-Fi model, $950 for the 4G LTE. So even the price is getting up there into what we're talking about with an actual laptop. It's 12.9 inches. So a lot of different options. Oh, then there's a 12.9-inch option as well. So again, all of this kind of getting announced. You do have to pay extra for the keyboards, $300 for the 11-inch model, $350 for the 12.9-inch. That's a lot of money for a keyboard, but it does kind of fall in line with what Apple does. But we'll have Luke Larson, who will be joining us later on in the show, to talk more about that, go into some details. We've got some details up right now if you want to follow up with that at digitaltrends.com. All right, let's give you a couple other news hits here, and then we've got some more videos for you. We've got lots to talk about today. Actually, we've got some great interviews, all kinds of things coming up. In association with this idea, though, that conventions are not going to be happening for quite some time, companies still need to make their product announcements, and different ways are going to be happening with that. And there's Nintendo Switch, who had a live stream. This was actually yesterday, and this is for Indie World Showcase, where they brought out some of these indie games that are going to be part of Switch. Probably one of the big ones was Enter the Gungeon, which is previously launched on Apple Arcade, so it was the streaming side of things. Now we've got a Switch exclusive, at least for a little while. I would guess it's probably going to expand to some other ones. You have No Man's Sky developer Hello Games put out a new trailer for The Last Campfire. So a lot of kind of interesting games that are going to be coming out. And this goes in conjunction with a bigger theme of a lot of people are gaming right now. As we're working from home, as we're stuck there, you're seeing, there was one trend I actually saw that reported that online gaming is up 75% right now, which doesn't surprise me. It's also probably part of the reason where we've seen some of these servers crash. Nintendo Switch Online crashed for a little while. Microsoft crashed for a little while. I don't think Steam went down, but there's just a lot going on with that, with so many people that are jumping on to online gaming and joining this whole new world that for a lot of people maybe they weren't a part of before. We're going to see at least some exciting things with gaming going on. So some new stuff there. You can read more about that announcement at digitaltrends.com. And something else that happened today was another launch from SpaceX for their Starlink satellites. So this is the initiative from SpaceX, and Starlink being the main company that they're using for this, to create a global satellite internet connection with all of these, up to 30,000 satellites. Up to 30,000 satellites is what they're going for with this. So this was the 5th official launch in this series. They did have some issues as far as, let's see, the Falcon 9's first stage land was not successful. So, because what they do is they re-land these, of course, because the reusability is the main factor. They weren't successful on part of that, but the launch itself was successful. Even with one of the 9 engines going out during the launch, they were still able to get up there and put these out. And this brings the total now, and this was something that I was actually surprised about because I didn't realize how many were up there. So 5 official launches at 60 satellites per, but they actually have 362 satellites up there because they put some up with 2 demonstration launches before the official ones. So 362 satellites up there right now, again with the goal of up to 30,000. And that is where SpaceX is at, where Starlink is at, trying to get this up. They've said before that they thought maybe even by the end of this year, certain parts of North America would be able to get it. But again, it's increasing connectivity, right? That's such an important thing. There's a lot of people out there who do not have access to broadband internet. If you're in a city, sure, it's fine. We kind of take it for granted, but a lot of people don't. So that is important. If this is the right way, well, we'll have to see. Astronomers kind of debate on that. I'll tell you what, though, I will be talking about something else a little bit later on about a global satellite cell connection. There's another company working towards that to send those out, but that'll be coming up later on. But you can read more about all of this at digitaltrends.com.
Hey, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. It's now time for the product of the day.
All right, here it is. Well, what we have here is a portable charger. Now, you've probably seen portable chargers before. They come in real handy when you're traveling, and I know a lot of people aren't necessarily traveling right now, but we're going to be on our laptops, we're going to be on our computers a lot, we're going to be on our phones as we're staying connected that way, and these things come in really handy. So what this one is the RAV power charger. So this is 26,800 milliamp battery pack. That's ridiculous. That's a lot. So it's a 5.5A output, 3 ports on it. Some of the big things here that it charges most smartphones over 6 times. So that's a great addition for one thing. Before you have to charge this again, you know, most smartphones over 6 times, or a tablet 2 times or more. Like I said, it's great for something to just have on hand. I mean, if you've ever run out of battery for your laptop, especially if, say, you're in a meeting or you can't find an outlet, this is something that can actually help out a lot for you. So it's also got 2 micro USB cables that come with it. It's got a travel pouch, which is actually kind of nice. So if you're like me, you've probably had some of these and scrape up your products. Well, this is just kind of a nice little addition to put that in. So again, this is our deal here for the day. And if you click the link, wherever you're watching right now, there's a link right there. Click that link or enter in that URL that we're putting. You can get this for $49.99. Kind of a great thing to have. It's something you usually want to have on hand, and why not pick one up right now? So there it is. This is our product of the day. All right. We've got more coming up here for Digital Trends Live. And again, I thank everybody for joining us. Hit that subscribe button. Stay with us here. We've got a lot to talk about. We will have Luke Larson joining to talk more about those Apple releases. He'll go in depth. He's got the technical details that you want to hear and kind of look at the bigger picture. So that's coming up. Up next, though, we've got our own Caleb Dennison, who's going to walk through some of those acronyms that we all see with televisions. There's a lot out there now. He's going to go through them and give you an understanding idea of what they all mean, something that you can actually digest. So that's coming up next. Stick around. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live.
QLED, OLED, Mini LED, or Mini LED if you must. Then you got XLED, ULED, FALD, EARC. Folks, this is getting kind of ridiculous. What if you just want to buy a TV? Do you really need to know all this stuff? Well, it does help, and I have good news for you. It's not as complicated as it sounds. Hey everybody, I'm Caleb Dennison for Digital Trends, and while we wait for all the sweet new 2020 TVs to arrive so we can start reviewing them and comparing them, I thought we'd take a second to make a video explaining the increasingly dense amount of TV acronyms that you will encounter throughout the year as you watch reviews and maybe try to make a purchase decision. If you're a TV enthusiast, you know about most of these already, but if you're just starting to take a look around, I think you'll find this explainer super helpful. So let's get to it. We start with the most common kind of TV today, the LED TV. LED stands for light emitting diode, and it actually refers to the backlight in an LCD TV. That's liquid crystal display, you know about that. So you have an LCD panel, which is like a 15-layer sandwich with light diffusers and polarizers and color filters. But in order to see the picture it makes, you've got to have light, and that's where the LEDs come in. Now, most TVs today are full array local dimming. Us TV nerds call that FALD, but you won't see that on a box. And that just means that there are LEDs scattered all along the back of the panel as opposed to just on the top and bottom edges. You will find some TVs today that are edge lit, but those are getting pretty rare. Next up is QLED. This is a term that Samsung coined, but is now used by other manufacturers as well. This is an LED TV, but it uses something called quantum dots to enhance the color and brightness. That's where your Q comes in. As simple as it may seem, you can expect for a QLED TV to be on the premium spectrum due to its better overall performance, especially for HDR, which is an acronym we'll get to in a minute. Onward now to Mini LED. This is also an LED TV, and in fact, it's probably a QLED TV too with those quantum dots in play. But the LED backlights are much, much smaller, and they're like thousands more of them. What that gets you is better control of the lights behind the LCD panel, and that usually means better black levels, sharper lines around bright objects on a dark background, and better overall contrast. Right now, this is the most advanced type of LCD-based TV, and there just aren't many of them, but we do expect to see lots more of this kind of technology in 2021. Now we move to micro LED, and this is where we really get away from the LCD panel. There is no LCD panel at all, and therefore there are no LED backlights. Instead, a micro LED TV has super tiny red, green, and blue LEDs that make up the pixels on the screen. They make their own light, so this is called an emissive TV technology. It's remarkable, with perfect black levels, incredible brightness, and remarkably accurate color. The catch is that it's only available in really large screen sizes, and it's really hard to come by. Samsung has this tech on the market, but it's super expensive and not available in normal screen sizes like 55-inch or 65-inch. So as incredibly cool as they are, you probably are not buying a micro LED TV this year, or next year even. Now it's time to talk OLED. OLED stands for Organic Light Emitting Diode, and like micro LED, it's an emissive TV technology. Here you get red, green, blue, and white subpixels with organic matter in them that glow when you apply electricity. The advantages here are perfect black levels, very good brightness, excellent color, and very fast response time. Unlike micro LED, you might want to actually buy one of these TVs this year. They're insanely thin, they look amazing, and we've rated an OLED as best TV of the year for like 4 years running now, and I don't think that's going to change this year either. Only downside is that since we're dealing with organic matter, it does decay, so burn-in is a potential issue for some buyers. Now we're going to take a step away from legit TV types and move into marketing land. The following TV acronyms are really just badges for TV brands to help set themselves apart. The first is XLED. This is a term Vizio uses to badge its LED TVs with full array local dimming, and we're probably going to see less and less of this in the coming years as they pivot and call their TVs something else. Then there's ULED, which is what Hisense uses to describe their TVs with quantum dots and full array local dimming. They could have just called them QLED, but this is their premium brand and they want to stand out. Hisense does have a cool dual layer LCD technology that fits under ULED, but doesn't really define it. Now, let's get away from TV types altogether and talk about some of the other acronyms that you will be hearing a lot about. And we're going to get into this with HDMI 2.1. HDMI stands for High Definition Multimedia Interface, and 2.1 is the latest version. You are almost certainly familiar with the HDMI cable since you've probably been using one for years, but if not, here's what it looks like. Through HDMI 2.1, we get some cool new features. And hey, guess what? More acronyms. One of them is VRR, which stands for Variable Refresh Rate, and this is great for gamers because it makes gaming smoother with less screen tearing and smearing. Previously, you would only get this kind of tech in high-end gaming monitors. Next is ALLM, which stands for Auto Low Latency Mode, and this has existed in TVs for a while now, but it's just now getting a name and getting standardized. Anytime a TV can detect a game console or a PC and automatically go into game mode, reducing input lag, that's basically auto low latency mode. Finally, there's EARC. This replaces regular ARC and stands for Enhanced Audio Return Channel. This is technology that allows audio to be passed from your TV to a soundbar or AV receiver or maybe some other kind of powered speakers. With eARC, you can now get lag-free, full-resolution audio passed to your other components. It's actually super cool stuff, and I'm excited for it this year. Now let's talk about HDR. This is a picture quality-related acronym, which stands for High Dynamic Range. You might be familiar with HDR from photography, like your phone has an HDR mode, right? This is similar, but as it applies to your TV. Now, there are a few different versions of HDR. One is HDR10, which is your basic every HDR TV supports it flavor of HDR. Then there is HDR10 Plus, which is an enhanced version of HDR10 that uses dynamic metadata to improve HDR performance from scene to scene. Then there's HLG, which stands for Hybrid Log Gamma. And you can think of this as the broadcast standard for HDR, which means if you're using an antenna or maybe getting an HDR feed via satellite or cable for, say, like the Super Bowl or the Olympics, it'll probably come as an HLG signal. And finally, it's not an acronym, but we have Dolby Vision, which is another really popular version of HDR and a bit more advanced than the other types that we just talked about. Okay, how you feeling? If you feel like you missed something, watch the video again, and I think you're gonna get it. Hopefully, you feel a little bit more armed and ready to go shopping for that new TV.
Hello, this is Digital Trends Live. Thanks for joining us wherever you are. We appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button on whatever platform you're watching. That way you get the notifications when we do go live, which is every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. But sometimes we have extra broadcasts as well, and you want to know when those happen too. So let's talk about some, well, trending technology is something that we bring up a lot here on the show. But what about technology that's classic and now making a resurgence? That's what we're going to discuss in part. And to do so, we have a great expert joining us. We have Charlie Randall, the CEO of Macintosh Labs. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Greg.
I want to give everybody just some context and what a storied history this company has in when it comes to audio equipment. Can you walk us through just a little bit of the history of Macintosh?
Sure. The company was originally started in 1949. The whole premise of the company was Mr. Macintosh saw the need for better amplification throughout, whether it be officer clubs in the military at the time, churches, that type of thing. And then ultimately it led into the home side as well. So the company was really formulated on reproducing the best sound possible.
Which is something that, you know, I think a lot of us can appreciate. You always want to get the best sound. And one thing that for forever it feels like is, you know, as we see different ways that we can stream music now, or you see it packaged in different ways, a lot of times it feels like the audio quality goes down, and that's not something that that has been improving necessarily. And when we go back to talking about records, that is something that everybody always talks about, is just, this has the sound that I want to hear. It's got that crispness. It feels like you're there with them. What is it about records in particular that is so attractive to people that it's making this kind of resurgence right now?
It's definitely the sound quality is different than what you find on, whether it be CD quality or anything else, you can argue one is better than the other, but really with vinyl, it's an emotional experience as far as playing the music. It's no different than opening and decanting a fine bottle of wine, or guys that have a ritual of smoking cigars. They like the whole aspect of cutting the end off, unwrapping it, and kindling the end of it. It's kind of like the rite of passage, I guess. And vinyl's the same thing. Vinyl offers a lot of information on the cover art, right down to the lyrics of the song, what the artist was thinking when he wrote the song. So there's a passion, behind the music as well as just listening to the music.
There is something that kind of that ritual, like you said, of opening it up and actually having something physical to touch and hold on to, but also, speaking to your point, the audio quality and the perception that is better for a lot of people, and how important that is. So we were just taking a look at one of your products right there. Can you walk through what that is in particular and what people can expect with it?
Yeah, so in the vinyl reperformance, we've got MTI 100. The product that we're actually looking at is the MA 252, which is it's a hybrid integrated. Hybrid means it's got vacuum tube front end for the preamp and the phono preamp, and then solid state amplification. So it gives the customer the sensation of listening to a complete vacuum tube unit, but the output section is solid state. So solid state compared to vacuum tube is completely different in sound characteristics on the amplifier side. Some people appreciate the vacuum tube, some people appreciate the solid state, but the solid state is pretty much maintenance free. You don't have to change out the vacuum tubes after they start to deteriorate over time.
So it's kind of the best of both worlds with that. And I know that Macintosh too, I did want to speak to you just a little bit about this, being involved in the industry for so long. I know there's some really big moments in music history that Macintosh has been a part of. Could you maybe share a couple of those with us?
Yeah, sure. The most notorious ones are, starting with the Woodstock. We powered Woodstock in 1969 with the help of Hanley Sound. They were actually the sound producers that put the system together for Woodstock. And then probably one of the more notable ones later on in history was 1974. We did the Cow Palace for the Grateful Dead. And the Grateful Dead used them at every show until the band decided not to perform anymore.
So really being a part there of some big moments when it comes to music history and just being involved in it. Looking at it from the historical context, and this is kind of what I want to bring it all to, is talking about where we're at. We're seeing this resurgence in vinyl, or at least with certain markets. People who have always been into it have always been there, but other people are starting to appreciate it. How do you see this going forward in, say, 5 years? How do we see this mixing of technology and something classic like vinyl changing the way? Is it going to change the way we listen to music, or what are some trends that you think will be happening here with this?
I think the trend, what started the trend actually is the fact that, with these types of devices, you have access to a lot of different music that we didn't have in the past, meaning it's more portable, and that has reinvigorated any part of the music side of it, whether it be vinyl, CD, even in some cases radio. The consumer has rediscovered music, and they want to rediscover more, especially the young people, because they find out that, first of all, what's a record or an album, which is a piece of vinyl, so that's intriguing to them. And then they find out that there's actually music that is still on vinyl that's not even available, in the liquid format or on CD today. So just that whole rediscovery process is part of what's fueling it. But again, without the liquid music or the cloud-based music, people wouldn't be rediscovering the music that they want to search out and find. I mean, it's amazing what the resurgence of vinyl has done compared to any other medium as far as software-based material for the music industry.
Right, and I know coming up in April, with National Record Store Day, this is a huge day nationwide where people can go out and purchase some albums. Anything you'd like to share about that?
Nah, just keep buying, keep enjoying music. And our job is basically to whatever medium you want to listen to, we will reproduce it at the standard or higher than the standard that it was originally set for.
If you had to pick one desert island vinyl record to take with you, could you pick one?
I'd be Dire Straits, Money for Nothing.
You knew that right away. All right, Dire Straits, Money for Nothing right there. Well, hey, I want to say thank you so much for joining us here on Digital Trends Live. This is fascinating talking about it. I mean, I love good quality audio, and certainly Macintosh being one of the leaders in that. And it's nice to talk to you and just see where this is going. I love that people are discovering music more. It's great for artists. It's great for people listening, and that is something I think we can all use right now is some good quality audio and to maybe even for an escape at some point. And it's certainly there for that. So thank you so much for joining us here on Digital Trends Live.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you.
All right, fascinating. I love talking about audio and just where that's going and just, seeing this resurgence of vinyl and having other people that are finding it, and National Record Store Day, that's definitely something you can go out and support a local store, but also pick up some music, listen to something maybe you haven't ever done before. All right, we're continuing on here. We've got more to talk about, though. We are live. We're broadcasting live. We've got lots to cover, and I know Apple has made some big announcements here today. And they've got a couple of press releases that came out for the new MacBook Air, or the updated MacBook Air, rather, and a new iPad Pro. We've got our own Luke Larson who's going to join us to actually get into the details of those. What does it mean? What's he excited about? What can you look forward to? All that's happening next, so stick around back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Hello, this is Digital Trends Live, and again, thank you for joining us. Whatever platform you're on, hit subscribe, share the show, let other people know about it. We will be here bringing you those trending tech headlines, news, interviews, and discussions throughout everything. So we broadcast live at 9 a.m. Pacific, but we're always going to be here bringing you news, and of course at digitaltrends.com. And there's some big news today, and that is coming from Apple. Apple releasing a couple of new products, some things that we were kind of anticipating, but we got a lot more details today. And to talk about that, we have Luke Larson joining us, working from home. Hello, Luke. Thank you.
Working from home, like we all are, except
Yep.
for you, Greg. You're the one who's putting in the hard work.
I think, well, I'm assuming everybody's working very hard wherever you are. So let's talk about this, though, with Apple. I know that we were anticipating that there would have been some kind of announcement maybe in March, because this is usually their product announcement time, right?
Yeah, we were looking forward to some kind of an event towards the end of March at some point. So, what we're looking at this week is some new products rolling out, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised to see some more come out later this week. But today, Apple dropped early this morning a new MacBook Air and a new iPad Pro. And yeah, we assumed these were products that they were saving for some kind of
So looking at them, let's go through one by one. Let's talk about maybe the update first to the MacBook Air, and that's something that I know. We've talked about this before, that there's a couple of updates that you were anticipating that would be happening with it. But what else? Let's walk through what those are and what else kind of surprised you with it.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff here. So just kind of the basics. It looks very similar to the previous MacBook Air, which came out in 2018. Nothing new there really. The big things, there's three big things. Basically, the keyboard has been updated so that it now is the Magic keyboard, which is the same one that got put in the recent 16-inch MacBook Pro. And basically, this is a fix for the treble butterfly keyboard. Has an actual 1 millimeter of travel, and it's the keyboard we all want, basically. So I'm really happy to see that come to the MacBook Air. So that's one, the keyboard.
Yeah.
The other big thing is the performance. So this gets bumped from to put it simply, gets bumped from a lower power 2-core processor up to a 4-core processor. Now, when you dig into it, though, the base level $1,000 version is still a 2-core processor, and I needed to dig into that a little bit because it doesn't say that in the press release. But when you go and just expect to buy it, the base level, you're still getting a 2-core processor, but you now have the ability to go up to a Core i7 and get the full quad-core option.
So that's an upgrade. It's not what the standard is going to be.
Exactly. And that leads me to the third point, which is the price. So typically this is a $100 price drop from where it used to be, but it's actually even more than that. So the starting price is now $1,000, but that actually comes with more RAM and more storage than in the past. So it's actually a pretty sweet deal in terms of that. It's more than $100 in terms of a bump from the previous version. Where it gets complicated now is that the MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro, the 13-inch version, they're really similar. When you bump up if you go up to that quad-core version on the MacBook Air, it costs $1299. It looks very similar to the MacBook Pro, except it doesn't have a touch bar. And yeah, I don't know.
That's kind of weird. It's kind of a weird move. Like, why are they positioning them so close together?
Yeah, it's hard to say at this point. I think one possibility is that we're going to see an update to that 13-inch MacBook Pro later this week.
Okay.
I'm a little confused as to why they didn't do it on the same day to kind of clarify that, But I do think that is an option. We are expecting, for example, we're expecting a 14-inch MacBook Pro to come out either this spring or later this year. So that would replace that 13-inch version and possibly bring some more performance and maybe a couple extra features. But as it stands right now, it's a little bit hard to choose between the two because they're very similar in terms of price. But you do have the cheaper option for the base level down at that $1,000 price point, which is a really attractive price. And I think, honestly, it's going to be the option a lot of people go for as a first-time buyer or a college student or something like that. It's an attractive price, and you do get the $100 education price. So if you are a college student, it's going to cost only $899. So that's
a pretty good deal. Yeah, when it comes to a MacBook Air like that. And again, with the updated keyboard, so nobody can keep complaining about that one. So we've got that. That's the MacBook Air. The other big announcement today being the iPad Pro. And this is one that is really interesting what they have done here. Can you walk through what you saw with this?
Yeah, this is just fascinating because we've been hearing for a while now that Apple is interested in bringing touchpad to the iPad Pro. Last year, actually, cursor support, mouse support kind of came to the iPad, or it came to iPad OS, but it wasn't a full support of it. And now this is just full on, comes with a touchpad. It's basically a laptop. It comes with a really interesting design. The screen sort of floats up in the air, but it really is a laptop form factor, except that it magnetically detaches. It's kind of like it's like the computer you got in front of you right there.
I was gonna say, that's what it reminded me of when I saw that, of just the clip-on keyboard.
Except it doesn't have a kickstand like that. It kind of has that unique hinge where you can still change the angle of the screen, but it kind of floats up there. It's a really interesting design, and I'm really curious about what they're going to do. But the touchpad, they weren't super specific, but basically it's going to have cursor support, and this completely changes what an iPad can do.
Right.
And it has cursor support. It won't be exactly like how it is on a normal laptop. And then, again, they weren't super specific with the details, but it's going to be some kind of a circle that you move around. And I think the operating system will sort of direct you to things you can do with it. So it might be a little more limited than a traditional laptop, but it really does change, the ability to use an iPad as a laptop replacement.
Yeah, which is again an interesting move for Apple to kind of take it in that direction. A couple of things that I wanted to ask you about too is when it comes to the LiDAR side of things, this LiDAR aspect that was announced with it. Can you explain what that means? I mean, I know what LiDAR is, but how is it in association with a keyboard?
Yeah, so this was the second part of the announcement with the iPad Pro. LiDAR is, if you're not familiar with it, it's like a laser, uses lasers to basically detect objects. We've seen it used in autonomous cars. We've seen it used in drones, things like that. Kind of interesting and surprising to see it used here, though, on an iPad. We're not totally sure what the implementation is like, because usually, LiDAR is a pretty big, bulky thing. Not huge, but they've shrunk it down quite a bit. But it doesn't appear to be anywhere on the back of the iPad Pro at all. It seems to be just completely integrated into the system. So, this is going to be a more limited use case of it. And obviously, this is for AR. This is for Apple's AR Kit apps. And from what we can tell, it seems like basically this is going to just improve the ability of the AR system that's already in the iPad Pro, and all the apps that already use it will just work better. And there's a couple examples of that, but we're not quite sure how big of an improvement that's going to be. We're going to have to wait to get our hands on it and actually test it out. But yeah, it's a really interesting thing. It basically, I think it's going to improve the ability to map out a room, map out objects in a room, detect people, and pull them out of it if the app wants to do that, stuff like that. But yeah, that's kind of as much as we know about the LiDAR implementation on the iPad Pro.
That's still pretty cool, actually. I like that aspect of it. I know there's a few different versions. Just to walk through those, what the prices were again, of what they've got for this.
Yeah, it's really quite expensive.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get to. I'm like, hey, this is an expensive iPad.
Yeah, so when you add on this new Magic keyboard, we didn't even mention the actual keyboard itself. Matches this new MacBook Air keyboard, so should be a really good typing experience. But the actual keyboard itself with the touchpad costs $329.
That's a lot.
As an add-on to the 12.9-inch model, and then the other one's a little bit cheaper. But I mean, if you buy the 12.9-inch iPad Pro, which starts at $1,000, and you add on the keyboard, you're at over $1,300, which that's pretty expensive for an iPad. You're getting into the laptop territory again there. So
right, if it's $1,000 for the new MacBook Air versus $1,300 for an iPad Pro, yeah.
Exactly, which is why it's interesting that they put these out at the same time,
Yeah.
And now they have these kind of two competing products that are really doing the same thing, just kind of in different ways. So it'll be interesting to see, what people gravitate towards. If you offer both of them to somebody, I think maybe people who are more familiar with a laptop form factor might be like, oh, I'll just go with the MacBook Air. But, maybe people in the younger generation who are more familiar with just their iPhone and an iPad, I think the iPad Pro might actually be kind of an attractive option if you're taking it to college for the first time or something like that.
Well, definitely interesting, and I know we've got all the details that are available up right now at digitaltrends.com, and I'm sure we'll be getting some of these to review here at some point.
Yep.
When we get those in the office. And Luke, thank you for making sense of all of this and explaining it out for us all. I know we've got more.
Best I could.
Well, we've got more at digitaltrends.com. Luke, thanks a lot. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Greg.
All right, we've got more coming up here on the show, and up next, we've got a special edition of TBD. So what is it going to be about? I don't know. That's why it's called TBD. That's coming up next. Stick around. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and thank you very much for joining us wherever you are. We do appreciate it. It is now time for a special edition of TBD, where we are joined by Adrienne Warner and Jess Zerba. Hello.
Hello over there.
How's it going?
How
We're
are
social
you?
distancing, just to make sure everybody knows. At home, and no way are we within arm's reach of each other.
We are
So,
practicing safe precautions.
Yes.
Safe
Safe
distancing. We have all washed our hands prior to this
Many
episode.
Yes.
We did not have somebody bring us the beers. We each
We got our
individually
own.
poured
individually
them.
poured, but we are drinking beer
But we
nonetheless.
are drinking beer nonetheless.
Yes, to kill the
Yeah.
germs, right?
That's how it works.
Yeah,
I
so
like it. So what are we drinking here today?
Well, as you know, Wednesday means brunch, so
Right.
we are drinking in honor of yesterday's St. Patrick's Day, since I
Right.
know it was not quite the celebratory experience that a lot of us anticipated.
exactly.
Correct.
We are drinking a stout.
Hey,
Cheers.
Cheers to
to
that.
everybody at home right now.
Just don't clink.
Nope, don't click. Stay away from the clicking. All right, so TBD each week has a different meaning. What is
right.
our meaning?
So this week's meaning is the big,
Big destiny.
And that's because we're going to be taking a look at the tech that was in some of our favorite science fiction movies and television shows throughout the eras.
Excellent.
We're going to take a look and see which one of those have come true, which haven't.
Right.
Things that we recall as kids that were like, actually, you know what? That's kind of more of a reality right now.
Okay.
So I thought that would be kind of a fun.
I love it.
little,
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
journey in
something a little
time.
fun.
Yeah,
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 a little
I love it.
lighthearted.
What do we start off with?
Awesome. Well, I will start off with one of my all-time favorites, which is the Jetsons.
Yay!
Hey.
It's so classic, and it's, if you actually really look at it, it's what we all really want.
It is.
the ultimate in that. And there's so many different things. I think we start off with Rosie, right? The robot.
Oh, yeah.
Housekeeper. That's something like robots clearly are coming to fruition a
Right.
lot.
Yeah.
But as far as like an actual kind of like autonomous robot-y
Right.
housekeeper thing,
Robot
we're
butler.
still working our way in that direction. But I mean, there are examples of that starting to
Right.
develop. So
That aren't quite as terrifying.
right.
Yeah.
Well, so actually, I want to tell you two really fast. The Jetsons, because I wasn't exactly sure of the timeline specifically, and it actually aired in prime time in September of 1962, and it was only on the air for one season, which I
Really?
really
What?
didn't know.
It was
yes.
only one season?
So it was just one season, and it. So it was on for that, and then like in the 80s, it was kind of like rebooted for 2 more seasons, and then that's when like Jetsons the movie happened,
Huh.
and then
Okay.
the Jetsons and like Meet the Flintstones, which is
Yeah.
like glorious.
Oh, yeah.
let's just
Barbara
say.
glory,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So. In the very first episode, there is a flat screen TV. So it's
Really?
completely flat. The whole screen is like the whole thing. Like there's like no edge. It's pretty amazing. And like Judy's like doing a workout, which is like hilarious.
Aren't we all?
Aren't we? Another thing in the first episode was video chat. Judy is like video chatting with her mom, and then regularly throughout it, she chats with like George at work and things such as that. And there's actually a thing called a Visa phone, which is essentially a video payphone. So like
What?
people talk, which I like completely
They
forgot
actually
until I
had
was
that
really
in
like,
there?
Wow.
yeah, it was called
pretty
a Visa
amazing.
phone.
Great.
So they would do that, and just a few other things that they had were like smart. They had a smartwatch in there.
Yeah, with video communication.
Yes,
and everything,
exactly.
yeah.
They had like flying cars, of course.
Right.
Right.
And then if you'll remember, like I guess we would call it like 3D printed food, because it would be like the
Like a replicator?
yes, I was gonna say a replicator
Yeah.
essentially, where you just like choose what you want and it appears. And
Dang,
I'm ready for
Jetsons.
that one. That's like the real.
I want the thing where you step in and it does your hair, makeup, clothing,
Ugh,
washes
Yes.
another
you, blow
classic.
dries you. That's what I really want.
Yeah.
We're not
Like-
there
It like
yet.
picks you up out of bed and drops you through a
Yes.
tube, and then you're just ready to
Incredible.
Do you know
Yeah.
what time period this was supposed to be taking place in?
I actually don't know that
What
answer.
year?
Yeah.
Like projected.
go. We'll have to
find
take a
out
look.
for us.
We'll have to take a
Yeah,
look
yeah.
at that. So going from 2062.
2060. I was gonna
2062.
say.
Okay.
All right, we
well,
got a
we
little
got
bit of time.
10 more
We have time. We're
years.
doing all
We'll
right.
get there.
We're making
We're on
pretty good
schedule.
progress. I
We're on
feel.
pace. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're on pace for that.
We've got this.
All right, so we've got the Jetsons.
Yeah.
What are some other examples?
Okay, well, taking a look at a much darker future.
I feel like that's how most of them are. But
Right, exactly. So I was taking a look at Minority Report and revisiting some of that, the movie adaptation of the Philip K. Dick novel. And, a lot of things that are featured in there we're close. Like, we're getting first versions of that. So we don't quite have the AR everything of, our dashboards, but we do have gesture-based computing.
Yeah.
Think about all of the way that we interact with our touch screens. Like, we are still touching things, but we are using the same kind of gestures to bring, multiple screens forward, to wipe things away, to scrub through things. So it's there. Like
Yeah.
the foundation of it is there.
Yeah, we're getting close. I mean, that's something. I mean, minus the terrifying future that is Minority Report.
Right, exactly.
But AR
the
is pretty
terrifying
cool.
future of predicting crime is hopefully we're not going to get to that kind of police state anytime soon.
Yeah.
But other things like projected or personalized ads, we're not quite to the level of personalization
Oh,
where it's
yeah.
adding
Right.
your name into things, but we are getting targeted ads
Yeah.
based on our demographics.
And I
And
bet
that
we're
are
not too
eerily
far away
close.
from that.
Oh,
yeah,
completely
absolutely.
targeted. I mean, it can pick
Seeing
it up off your
yourself
phone.
in the car, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, we do have things like retina display, just like not, in this
Yeah.
social context that they do. Holographic projections, we definitely have. We're
Yeah.
just not at the consumer level quite yet, but we're seeing stars go on tour
Right.
Yeah.
with just their
Whitney Houston.
holograms. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's interesting. A lot of that is there from, a novel that was originally
That's-
written in the 1950s.
That's
pretty
crazy.
amazing.
I was trying to think about this, like for a movie, for me, like Total Recall is one that.
Right.
See, Total Recall. I mean, it's not happening yet, but I feel like we're getting
I
close to it.
hope we're
with
not
everybody.
close to it. Jesus.
I mean, Elon Musk is basically going to make that Martian
Right.
city.
You're right.
And then air is going to be a commodity, and then your memories are going to get erased. And yeah, I feel like we're getting there. Some of the aspects of it, especially with the different, with the brain modifications.
Well,
Yeah.
if we're not allowed to take trips, if we're not allowed to do travel in the near future,
I was
we
there-
might
there
it
take
is.
mental vacation.
There it
See?
is.
Yeah, that's it. Starting it right now. Total Recall. Open your
Great.
mind. All right, I know another part of
Yes.
TBD is also this.
Yes, well, something else futuristic we're going to take a look at in the wild world of crowdfunding. We always do a segment called Kick Stop It, and
Right.
this week's is called Desk Space, the lunar surface.
What?
And it's cool. It's so they took a replica of the dark side of the moon essentially and printed it onto a piece of concrete for your desk. It's like basically just a design piece.
All right.
Which I find like simultaneously really cool and also useless. Like it's literally just concrete, but it is an accurate replica of the moon's surface.
I mean, I'm in.
I like it. There's one question here, though. How could you ever set a drink on that? Isn't it
It's
just gonna
supposed to.
You're not
It's like
supposed
a.
It's
just
more of like an art piece.
Oh, okay.
You just like
You don't
lean
actually
it up there.
use it.
And the,
No.
the cool way that they made it is they used data from the NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. So that's how they got the pictures of the moon and recreated the surface.
I see.
on
So
a
it's just
one-to-one
it just
scale,
sits on the desk.
yeah. Not on a
Yes.
one-to-one
Okay, it's
scale,
not a
on a much
desk
smaller
itself.
scale. What
Or
am I
on
saying?
a shelf,
Right.
if you will.
On
all
your-
right, that's
with
pretty
your
cool.
moon collection.
You can hang it on the wall.
You could.
Yeah.
I like that.
You could get a
Depends-
bunch of them, and
Yeah. Do like a gallery wall of moon.
I mean, you're right. This is a lot just for a piece of concrete.
that's
but
that's how I feel.
What is the pricing on this? What are we looking at here?
That is an excellent question. Let's take a look.
okay, so this
But
is
it is wildly successful so far. People are really backing it. It had a very small goal, and it's well
about
over that by 10.
$79.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
$79
All
is
right.
what you can get that.
Yeah, I
for.
mean they're
That's a little
over double funded.
you know what? It seems like something you'd find in Sky Mall.
Yeah, it really does. I also feel like I could just get some concrete.
and like put some
Do that.
And
holes
just-
in it, some
don't
Just
divots.
stick your
Yeah,
fingers
I'll
in
do it
it.
with my thumbs. Yeah, there it is. I got the cheap
So
version.
you could do while you're at home
Get
quarantine,
that for
Greg.
$15 right now.
You could laser print something if you could get.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
something you could do is 3D print.
Yeah,
the surface
3D
of the
print
moon,
it.
but it wouldn't be in jewelry quality concrete.
True. Jewelry
Jewelry
quality.
quality concrete?
Wow.
Said, I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means. either. I
No.
feel like that's just something made up.
But something we do know what it means is Charlie Cam.
Well, wait, really quick.
Oh, wait.
Kickstarter or Kickstop
Oh,
it.
right. Sorry, I'm skipping ahead.
I'll kickstart it. I like the moon.
That's the clip that I want taken from the show.
I personally am like, why? So I would say Kickstart it, but I support Jess's enthusiasm.
Let's
of
do
the
it.
moon. So let's say Kickstart it.
Kickstart it.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going for it too.
There it is.
Kickstart it.
Great.
All right. Well, there it is.
Oh,
Another
there's
edition of
Charlie
TBD.
He's
Here we
regal.
go. As we go to break, we've got Charlie Cam playing there. Charlie enjoying the snow. That's
Right.
magical. And we're going to come back with some more news. We've got some more interviews. So stick around. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Cheers.
Yay.
Cheers.
Don't clink.
Clink.
Don't
Blink.
Hello, this is Digital Trends Live. And again, thank you for joining us. Whatever platform you're watching on, we appreciate it. We are live here every single weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, wherever we broadcast from. Yesterday, we were at the Landmark Saloon here in Portland. Today, we're in the studio. Where will we be tomorrow? We don't know, but we'll be right here on whatever platform you're watching. So hit that subscribe button. It's very important. Let's talk about some other news, though. So something big obviously happening today. It's in the title of this show. We're talking about the PlayStation 5 announcement. Finally, we get to see some more specs from them on what they're going to be releasing later on this year. We've had a lot from Xbox, a lot about the Series X. They've really released a lot of information. Here's what we know about this. So it's not a ton that has come out. They announced this thing, but here's what we do have. So they do have a faster solid-state drive, 5 gigabytes per second. So speed is really what they're focusing on with this, talking about how fast it is. And that's something that actually Xbox has talked about too, speed being the real big issue. They said that, let's see, looking at this, it's going to be backwards compatible. So from the PS4 and PS4 Pro, that stuff will be backwards compatible. I don't know how far back that'll go, but almost all titles will work at launch. So that's pretty great. It's got some, let's see, 36 CUs, 3.5 gigahertz for the CPUs. It's got an AMD GPU, 2.23 gigahertz. It does support 8K ray tracing, so 8K and ray tracing. Again, something that we're seeing from the Xbox. Sounds very similar to that. As far as the differences, you know, I'm not sure specifically what we're going to be getting different from this, and this is just what they've released. So the audio, this is something that's kind of interesting. Developed for all users, not just VR, and focused on presence and locality. So they're doing a 3D audio sourcing idea, and that is kind of interesting when you think about it, because that's not something that we've really seen before. They've got virtual surround sound, best listened to with headphones is what they're talking about. So that's kind of an interesting move with it. But again, these are the details that we're getting so far for the PlayStation 5. We've got more about that at digitaltrends.com, so you can go there and take a look and read up on it. As they release more things, we'll let you know. What they didn't release, at least as of right now, is the design. We still don't know what it looks like. And that was one of the things I was really hoping and expecting from PlayStation for today, from Sony for this announcement, but we don't have an idea on that part still. At least it's a little bit more than we had before. We'll see what happens in the coming days, but you can read more about that at digitaltrends.com. All right, a couple more. Let's stick right here. Hi. I'm not going anywhere. Just psyched you out. Let's do this. We want to walk through a couple more trending news stories. And actually, this is one, it's just kind of interesting that's on digitaltrends.com right now. We've got an emerging tech section that's great and talks about some different uses of robotics. And that's what we're discussing with this. So this is a cargo ship scrubbing robot. Ship scrubbing. Make sure you heard that correctly. And it's called the Hull Skater. So it's like essentially a Roomba for the high seas. And the way this works is it's got magnetic wheels, and it can control itself going around the hull of a ship, cleaning it. And in case you don't know, that's a very important thing. And actually, I didn't realize how important. Because what happens is when a ship's out at sea, it'll get, you know, microbial life and different things will actually show up on there. Algae will attach itself to the ship. It doesn't seem like that's a big deal, right? But apparently it is. It affects how fast the ship can go pretty drastically, which also then affects how much emissions that it puts out. So it's environmentally affecting things when you look at that. So if this can clean it, and it cleans very quickly, usually in port, it does need a 4G LTE connection in order to do it accurately, but it can clean in just several hours and actually continuously do that. So between 2 and 8 hours, depending on the size, it can clean an entire ship, which could be tremendously beneficial in saving energy and fuel. So pretty cool right there. That's something you can read about at digitaltrends.com. And the final thing I have here, and then we're going to go to a break and we're going to get our guest on, is this. I did mention before that, and we've talked about this plenty, that Starlink and many other companies are looking to launch a global network of satellites to provide broadband internet access wherever you are. But what about cell phone service? Well, that's what this company is doing. It's called Link, and they want to get you access no matter where you are. So we have satellite phones right now, but they're very expensive to use. You usually have to rent them, or it's hard to kind of come by those. This would be taking ordinary cell service, and they're saying at the same price that you're paying right now, and have global satellite access wherever you are. So you never have to worry about checking how many bars you have. You would always have full bars. And what they did is they sent the first ever text message from space to a mobile phone, an unmodified mobile phone. So a text has been sent before, but this is just to a standard Android phone in Argentina, I think is where this went. So they didn't have to modify anything. They actually sent the text directly to them from space. So it's kind of a big moment for them, and they're looking right now to raise some more funding to get some of these satellites up, but they are launching. They sent some up, ironically, with SpaceX, with one of the Falcon launches, so that's how some of these satellites got up there already, the ones that they're testing with, but that is linked, so we'll have to see where that goes, but you can let us know in the comments, or, of course, read more about it at digitaltrends.com. All right, we are continuing on here with the show, and again, I thank everybody for joining us. We've got a lot to talk about, and certainly something that you know, if you're watching us, you know about streaming media. And we've been streaming for a while, and a lot of other people are coming on board now, especially with what is going on. And a lot of people are moving their entertainment to those fashions. So coming up next, we're going to be joined by Daron Neer, the CEO and co-founder of Stream Elements, to talk about their streaming platform and maybe give us some advice, some tips, some tricks, if a lot of you out there are trying to figure it out. That's coming up next. Stick around. Back in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. This is Digital Trends Live. Thanks for joining us. We live stream every single weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, and I know a lot of people are learning about live streaming right now because our entertainment options are a little bit dwindled as we're all dealing with what's going on. And it's been a trend, though, that's been happening for quite some time. And to speak to that, we have joining us the CEO and co-founder of Stream Elements. We've got Daron Neer. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Hey, Greg. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to talk about this. Obviously, we're big fans of it, but it's exciting to see where this is going and what the trends are involved with live streaming events or live streaming entertainment or whatever people want to do with it. To get a little bit of the background, though, can we talk about your company and how long you've been involved with this?
Sure. Stream Elements is a fairly young company. We've been in this space for 3 years. We provide content creators in the live streaming space a full stack of tools to go live, engage with their audience, and generate revenue. We have about over 300,000 channels that are using our production stack every month across YouTube, Mixer, Facebook, and Twitch. Some of the top creators in the space have been using our service for years now, and we've been growing very rapidly. And with this coronavirus crisis, we've actually seen a significant uptick in the usage, and both from existing creators that have more people watching them, and from new creators that are joining the space.
Yeah, it really is just remarkable how much things are changing just in real time, just so quickly. With that, though, talking about live streaming, I guess let's walk through what some of the key things are when it comes to your platform. Now, you mentioned that you have 300,000 people using it and using your service. Let's talk about, if you can, walk through what that means to use your service. What do people get when they're utilizing Stream Elements?
So first of all, let's just start by saying that if this is the first time that you're going live, then you don't really need something like Stream Elements. Stream Elements is a production tool set that really starts to kick in and bring impact when you decide that you want to be serious and build a community around your content. We provide a set of audience engagement tools. So the very simple example is that when somebody follows or subscribes to your channel, using our platform enables you to pop a beautiful graphic alert that would basically thank the follower for subscribing or following that channel. And that is just the first example. There's an entire set of features that comes after that. Things like providing loyalty points to people who watch you regularly, presenting nicer, more lavish alerts when people donate money to the stream, because a lot of the creators are really dependent on those donations for their livelihood. And all the way to, you know, monitoring the chat and making sure that people don't spam bad things or, you know, post, God forbid, porn links on the chat. So it really ranges across a whole bunch of functionalities, and the creators that use the full extent of our services are really very hardcore and use that to broadcast to millions of viewers. But even for somebody who's just starting and they want, you know, nicer themes or having those transitional scenes like you guys have with a very professional production suit, we provide that out of the box for free. So you immediately get an uptick in what this service provides you.
And really, that's a great way to stand out too, with so many people going to live streaming. You know, to have something that's more polished, more.
Absolutely. The moment you want to take this a step beyond just opening a live stream from your phone and talking to your community, that is where we start bringing in the value.
What kinds of platforms does this work on, or is it pretty much anything you want to stream to?
So we have a desktop client, which is our streaming software. It's called OBS Live. It's basically a plugin to the very popular OBS software, which is the #1 software in live streaming, and in generally, I think, in desktop video content creation. We have a plugin that basically complements our functionality on top of that. We are integrated, as I mentioned, with YouTube Mixer, Facebook, and Twitch. I would say the majority of creators that use our production stack are on Twitch, but we have, you know, tens of thousands on each of the other platforms as well.
What are some of the trends that you're seeing right now? As you know, again, things are changing so rapidly, but it's certainly not anticipated that a lot more people would be live streaming. Maybe it's just happening a little bit faster than a lot of people expected. But what are some trends that you're seeing just happening in this moment?
So it's really three different or distinct behaviors. The first one, and the most common one, and the one that's showing the biggest rise in traffic and engagement, is with people who are already live streaming. And just because there are no schools and a lot of workplaces are closed, and a lot more people are watching Twitch and YouTube and watching their favorite creators, and these guys are showing much higher numbers of viewership and engagement with their audience. The second category are people that are going live for the first time, just because, you know, everything is closed, everybody's at home, and why the hell not try it for the first time? And there we see literally tens of thousands of creators over the past 6-7 days that have started streaming with our production set. And the third category, middle category, are a lot of professionals that really either saw a decline on their business, or basically can't do their regular work in these days as opposed to before the coronavirus, that have been going live but are now going live more often and really want to upgrade their presence, because this is an opportunity to gain new followers and new audiences through our set of tools. We see a general rise of anywhere between 20% to 40% across all these categories, both in how many people go live and how many people watch these guys that go live.
Well, it's definitely an interesting time, and certainly, you know, you've been at the forefront of it, but now even more so as we see more people bringing their productions online to live streaming. And I want to let everybody know too, to take advantage of your platform, where should we send them? What's the best way for them to do that?
First of all, go to streamelements.com. Just to be absolutely clear, our services are 100% free of charge for anybody forever. So there's no price to trying to onboard and download OBS Live and start streaming. Even just for trying it, if you're either professionals or younger audiences or younger creators. My 11-year-old son decided that he's going to start streaming over the last week. So it ranges across the entire population. Just go to streamelements.com. We have a wonderful support community on Discord. You can join that server as well and get a lot of resources and help on how to onboard, how to upgrade your stream, and how to make it look and sound more professional.
Well, Jerome, thank you so much for joining us to talk about this really fascinating conversation. It's interesting to see where it's going, and really appreciate you sharing your knowledge here on Digital Trends Live.
Absolutely, Greg. Do we have time for one last point?
What's your last point?
I think a lot of the people that could potentially be watching us now are marketers, people that are working either to market their own business or working for bigger company on marketing. One of the interesting things that this period of being at home opens is that a lot of the marketing channels that companies used to use are now being shut down or either just enjoying very little viewership or traffic. Everything that has to do from billboards to shelf displays is just suffering dramatically.
Yeah.
This can be very easily replaced with endorsements and sponsorships from creators
That's
that
a great,
see an enormous uptick in their viewership.
A great way to do it.
If
Jerome, I
brands
do
that
have
are
to, I
watching
do
us-
have to get to my break.
I apologize.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I got to get to my break, but I appreciate that, and so it's certainly something that people can go there to the website and check out. And thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right, we do have to go to a break because we've got our next guest coming on, and that is Dr. Mike. Dr. Mike's going to be joining us here on the show to talk about coronavirus. You know him. I mean, he's one of the biggest YouTubers out there. I mean, he's got a huge social media presence, and we're very excited to have him on. So that's coming up next. Stick around, back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and thank you for joining us wherever you are. We do appreciate it. We like to keep you up to date on what is going on in the world, in technology, and certainly things are changing rapidly. There's a lot of information out there, and some of it is just plain not true, and there's a lot to talk about in association with that. But to do so, we have a great expert joining us. You probably already know who he is. We have Mikhail Varshavsky. You know him as Dr. Mike. Dr. Mike, thank you so much for being here on the show.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. These are scary times. But with good information, we can make better decisions for ourselves and our family members.
And I know you're out in the field right now in the middle of all of this. I can only imagine what your life has been like dealing with this. What are you up to actually right now?
Yeah, this is crazy. I know I'm not in my traditional doctor outfit because today I have my day off from the hospital. I'm actually trying to secure $50,000 worth of masks for my hospital because we are running short on supply. And the specific masks that we need are called N95 masks, and these are in very short supply. We need these for doctors, nurses, all medical professionals on the front lines. So I'm trying to do something as a citizen, not just as a doctor, by going out and trying to purchase these masks and make a donation to my hospital.
Wow. Well, I mean, are you finding success with this?
It's tough. There's obviously limited amounts, and I'm trying to argue with people who are trying to get them for personal use. And I'm explaining these are not for personal use. These are for healthcare professionals because we are treating patients that are sick. If we run out of these masks, we have to start shutting down departments. And we never want that to happen as a hospital system, not necessarily in mine, but I know several pediatric offices in New York City that are struggling to keep their offices open because they don't have personal protective equipment. And I'm just trying to do anything I can to make that possible.
You know, I think that speaks to that misinformation that a lot of people are getting, where they think that they need these things in their personal lives, and really it is. It's you folks who are working on the front lines of this who need that kind of protection. Speaking to the side of misinformation, what else? What are some other things that you think people should know about, or things that you've seen that are being talked about or shared that are incorrect?
Well, first of all, people are talking about there's things you can do to boost your immune system, supplements you can take. This has ranged from something more benign as vitamin C to all the way as something as toxic as bleach. There is nothing you can do or take that's going to prevent or treat this novel coronavirus. Taking zinc, taking vitamin C is probably going to do nothing. If you take too much of it, it can actually be harmful. We have to remember that just because something is labeled natural, it does not mean that it's healthy. Um, People that are trying to sell you these marketers that are saying these are immune boosting supplements, they don't exist. That's not true. The immune system needs to be optimized, not boosted. Because when your immune system works too much, you actually create an autoimmune condition where the body attacks itself or an allergy. So we want people to have an optimized, balanced immune system. And the way we do that is through three main factors. One, getting enough sleep, because if you don't sleep at least 6 hours a night, you actually lose natural killer cells within your bloodstream, which is a first line defense against something like this virus. You want to eat healthy, which means fruits, vegetables. There's a lot of great nutrients there. And finally, exercise. Just because we're sitting at home doesn't mean we can't exercise. You can do a calisthenics class from YouTube, from your television, from your laptop. Also, there's nothing wrong with going outside as long as you're not in a crowded environment. And then I guess a fourth pillar would be to avoid bad habits. Drinking alcohol in heavy amounts can also weaken your immune system, ruin your sleep, which we just talked about, also harms your immune system. And smoking obviously is never a go-to.
Well, I mean, that's great advice right there that I feel like a lot of people need to know about. When it comes to this, what are some other things that you feel are important to talk about when it comes to this, as far as everything that we're seeing in the news right now? You know, there's all this news of social distancing. Is this an important thing that we really need to be doing? What are the other key components of that?
For sure, social distancing is the number one thing we're focused on right now. And the reason we're doing that is not because we're so much afraid that this virus is going to harm everyone in our population. The main folks who are potentially going to have bad effects from this virus are those over the age of 60, those who have pre-existing medical conditions. But if we have everyone get sick simultaneously, because this virus is so infective, meaning that it infects so many people so rapidly, that's one of the major differences between this and influenza virus. We can have a run on the hospitals. We know why a run on the banks is bad. We know why a run on the markets, as we see right now happening, why that's bad. But a run on the hospitals is so much worse because doctors are going to be facing decisions on who they should be given treatment to. And that's never a situation we want to get to. The way we can avoid this is through social distancing, by staying home. If we're sick, quarantining ourselves and not getting other people sick, and just in general limiting our exposure to other people, because we've seen that this virus, even though we might have very mild symptoms, we still can be the ones that are spreading it.
Do you foresee that we're going to see more quarantine efforts by governmental organizations and more of these even stay-at-home orders that are going to be happening across the United States, at least?
I think that we will, and I think it's actually a really good thing. Young people especially, they hear myself and other doctors say that this is a disease that threatens the elderly and those who have medical conditions. They say, oh, I'll be fine. So they go about their business, go to beaches, go to bars. No. They can't be doing this, because if they spread it to one of their friends that then spreads it to another friend, to their grandmother, that's how we get a run on the hospitals. So we absolutely need to do everything we can to show the population how serious this is. That being said, I think what's happening in our society right now is a true form of solidarity. We're coming together, we're staying home, we're understanding why we need to take an economic hit in order to protect the health of this nation, not so much financially, but literally the health of our nation, to make sure that we get through this, limited damage as possible, limited lives lost, because this virus can be serious. It can be seriously deadly, even in the young population. We've seen 30-year-olds hospitalized in ICUs, and we do not want that to continue happening.
In your opinion, and I know it's probably hard to foresee exactly what's going to happen with this, things change by the hour right now. How long do you think it will be before we're out of the threat of this?
Yeah, that's honestly, it's like throwing darts at this point. You have no idea, because we don't know how many people have this virus. I will predict very confidently that over the next week, we're going to see huge spikes in cases. But these are just numbers, and the numbers at this point are useless because we haven't had testing kits up until now. Now that we're testing people, the more we test, the more disease we find. So it's not an accurate representation of the virus spread. I think now the virus is probably spreading less than it has been over the last 2 weeks, but we can't know that because the numbers are lagging behind. I think we'll only get an accurate picture of what's going on within the next 2-3 weeks alone. So this is going to be a slow process. We're going to need to get as much information. We need to adapt and evolve with the situation. But as we do that, we'll be able to give better estimates of when this virus will go away, how will it go away, what steps need to be taken, because it's very possible if this virus slows down during summertime when the air is more humid, germs hang around for a shorter period of time, and we're spending less time indoors. But then it could totally come back in the fall and have another seasonality to it. So until we get more information, until we get medications to treat it, we won't know what the next steps are going to be.
As of right now, and where we're at this moment, Dr. Mike, what can people do to help out people like you who are on the front lines trying to battle this? I know you're trying to get $50,000 worth of air masks. What other things can people do to help out the people at the front?
I mean, making donations to organizations like the Red Cross, your local hospital organizations, that's absolutely important. But really, it comes down to a level of personal responsibility. Doing your best to stay home, limit social gatherings, washing your hands frequently, as much as possible. And if you're going to go outside, make sure you do it responsibly. Stay at least 6 feet away from other people. If you're going to be touching elevator buttons, door handles, do it with a tissue. Do it with your elbow, with your hips, so you're not making contact with your fingertips. Because the second most common spread of this virus comes from contact, meaning contact with your fingertips to a doorknob that someone sneezed on, that then you reintroduce to your face. So if you can follow those steps, you're going to be taking personal responsibility. We can do that on a mass scale. We can really make a dent in this thing.
Well, Dr. Mike, thank you so much for joining us. I don't want to take up any more of your time. Really, really appreciate the advice. Appreciate what you're doing. Best of luck on getting these masks today. And as you said, for everybody out there, make a donation or do whatever you can to help out. I know a lot of people are suffering economically too, but this is something where clearly taking your advice, going to an accurate source of information is so important. Thanks so much for being here on Digital Trends Live.
Thank you so much, Greg. Alert, not anxious. That's the motto.
I love it. All right, well, there we go. So that's the best advice that you can get right there. So thank you, everybody, for joining us here on this show. And as I talked about at the beginning, misinformation is such an important and thing. It's an important issue that is happening right now where we need to be aware of it. And following the advice of somebody like Dr. Mike is huge. Now, tomorrow on Digital Trends Live, we're going to be talking about underwater robots with Andreas Whitty, the CEO and co-founder of Novatics Technology. So they make drones for exploring oceans. So that should be a fun conversation talking about that. We also have Aaron Keeney, who will be joining me on the show here for another segment of Real News. So the film industry has been one of the hardest hit by coronavirus as movie theaters are shutting down nationwide. Film premieres are being pushed out to later dates, if they even have a date. Productions are being halted. So we'll discuss all the delay dates, what it means big picture-wise, and how streaming is going to factor in to new movie releases. And of course, we'll have all the breaking technology news of the day, as we always do. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back live at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, wherever you consume content. And wherever that is, make sure to subscribe and follow us. That way you get the notifications when we're up. And for Digital Trends, I'm Greg Nibbler. I'll see you right back here tomorrow.